Thank you, Ashley. Okay. Again, thank you very much for joining us this evening. This is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee of the Town of New London. We're calling our meeting to order at 5:30. Yeah. And Erica is going to be the designated note taker tonight. Just a reminder that the meeting is video recorded. Please move close to the microphone and press the button, make sure the green light is on, and speak clearly so that we can capture the recording. And if you're not a member of the committee, please introduce yourself before speaking. I want to welcome Ashley Seabolt tonight, the town administrator, for coming to our meeting. We very much appreciate your participation, and BB made an extra effort to come to the meeting because she had a couple of things scheduled today, so very much appreciated. We'll move ahead with the review of the September 11 committee meetings that were forwarded to the committee 2 weeks ago. They've also been, the draft minutes have also been posted on the town website. Do committee members have any correction or additions to the minutes?
Second.
Okay, the minutes have been approved and seconded. Thank you very much. I wanted to thank Putnam for setting up the AV equipment. Let's begin the discussion this evening. The agenda was posted on the town website, and committee members have received the agenda. I do have one extra copy if anyone would like a copy of the agenda. I wanted to talk a little bit about our collaboration with the Recreation Department. We've been fortunate to really have Putnam's full cooperation in a couple of activities. We did the free kids bike tune-ups at the Strawberry Fest, and I wanted to thank Grant, Judy, Emily, and Putnam for volunteering at the Walk to School, Bike to School event yesterday. Putnam, I don't know if you want to share anything about that activity, and also any Recreation Department activities you have coming up that you would like to bring to the committee's attention.
All right, so I'm Putnam Kidder. I'm the rec director. Always glad to be here. And yeah, the event went really well yesterday. Probably had close to, I would say, maybe a little under 100 participants of elementary school aged. A lot of families who were there walking and riding bikes. We had the fire department, police department helping out as well, and a lot of staff from the school. So it was wonderful, great way to start the day. The bikers go first, then the walkers go. There's a lot of really wonderful energy from all the people there, and every year we do it, we learn a little bit more about how to do it effectively and efficiently. Sometimes it's hard to get our bikers to slow down a little bit, and it's hard because it's also downhill. But yeah, it was really great, and it's a wonderful remembrance of Chad Denning. I always be sure to send pictures to Becky, his widow, and she's always so excited to see those pictures and know that that's still going on. And I think it's a great collaboration and way we can try to do more things like that. Maybe we try to do something like that in the spring. Grant and I were talking about that. And happy to do more with the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Commission. And Halloween is coming up on next Sunday from 10/26 from 4 to 6 p.m. where we do the event on Main Street. It's going to be great this year, lots of stuff going on. There is the container of candy out there. Next to it is a sign where you can make a quick Venmo donation to our candy drive, which is where we raise funds to purchase candy to hand out to all the folks in the trick-or-treating zone. So if you haven't done that already, I would encourage you to do that on your way out. It's a great way to give back to the community and help the event be so successful. So glad to be here and always happy to think about future events as we look, maybe not so much in the winter, but heading into the spring and early summer next year. So,
Thank you, Putnam. And just by the way, in terms of the Walk to School, Bike to School activity, one interesting fact about that program is that there's actually a national organization called Safe Route to School, and they provide grants to schools to improve safety around the immediate surroundings of the school. And secondly, the Bike Walk Alliance of New Hampshire, which is a nonprofit organization, provides free bicycle safety demonstrations in schools in New Hampshire. So those are resources that I'm going to be talking to the school about. So let's turn. I'm going to slightly shift the agenda so that we can deal with a topic that is a little bit shorter in duration, and then we'll talk about the Walkable New London initiative, which will be a longer discussion. So one of the items on the agenda that gets a lot of attention is the sidewalk repair and construction agenda item. And Ed and Emily brought to my attention that the planning board recently approved the multi-year capital improvement budget for the sidewalks submitted by Sam Clark of the Department of Public Works. And the capital budget, as many of you know, is kind of the framework for forecasting needs of departments that have capital requests. So I know, Emily, you were at the planning board meeting, and I mean, I have actually the numbers here, but if you want to just share with people what transpired at the capital board.
Okay, so this is fiscal year, this is what you're talking about right here, the
Yeah,
numbers?
yeah,
Okay.
but you should put the microphone on if you don't mind.
Without my playground voice? Okay. All right.
Maybe you could just talk
I know.
the discussion at the planning board
All
and
right.
then what was allocated, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Okay, not at all, not at all. Okay, so the projected investment in sidewalk repair and construction is impressive. For fiscal year 2027, there is $200,000 in the budget we went through and approved. For 28 is 122, 29 is 156, 30 is 161. These are all hundreds of thousands. And 31 is 145. So that's more than we've seen in a while, I'm pretty sure. So I think it's great. Also, in case you have not had the opportunity to walk the new construction zone between Colby, Sawyer, and Cleveland's, it's pretty impressive with all the recycled glass and everything else that they've done to expand. And one of the neat things that Adam brought up at the planning board meeting was that there are old sidewalk stones from the original Town of New London sidewalk with inscriptions on these stones. There's a beautiful one at the Kidder grave site in the old Main Street Cemetery. Putnam, do you remember? Can you recite that? No? Okay. All right. But it's gorgeous, and if you haven't been up there, it's really worth the trip to go there. And apparently they have, I'm not sure what this one says, but Adam said that they're going to put it right up by the end at Cleveland's driveway. So I think that's a nice touch. The way I feel anyway. But that's about all I can say about the sidewalks, but I think it's great. You know, I think that we're hopefully headed in the right direction, improving them.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Sam this week in regard to the project in front of Colby Sawyer College, and he said that, you know, based on their experience of sort of the development and the installation, that he actually thinks that in terms of the capital budget, that they might actually be able to get more accomplished than they've sort of scheduled, because that project has gone so well. And I did take some photos there, but it is an impressive undertaking. And of course, that's a flat. That's flat terrain, but the sidewalk, I believe, is 5 feet wide.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when it's going to be paved, but
Right.
it's fun up there without the pavement. With
Yeah.
all the cool colored
Right.
glass.
Yeah. By the end of the month, Sam said it's going to be paved. So, As far as the sidewalk construction goes, I mean, that is pretty much on target. And I just wanted to ask any members of the committee or any members of the public if they had any questions or points of discussion regarding the sidewalks.
Russ, does Sam have plans for the next phase, what section might be done?
I don't have that information. I don't know if that was shared with the planning board. I am going to be meeting with Sam and, oh. Okay, thank you, Ashley.
The plan, and actually, I think Bob Bowers was integral in this conversation. You had a great conversation with Sam around the schedule of the sidewalks, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, he has switched the order, and the next phase will be right around Pressy Court, Sawyer Lane, and then up to through Spring Ledge to Crockett's Corner. And then from there, it'll continue on. But originally, it was going to be Newport Road, and after a great conversation with Bob, who made the suggestion to switch it. So the next phase will be between Pressy Court and Crockett's Corner. And we'll continue on from there. Oh, Homan's Corner. Homan's Corner. Sorry, Homan's Corner. Yes, Spring Ledge. Spring Ledge. That's the next phase.
Thank you for that
Sure.
clarification, yeah. Comment or discussion on sidewalk repair or construction? Do you have any other salient points, Bob, that you'd like to share? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, really
Okay.
incredible.
yeah, really impressive, actually, yeah.
So lucky to have him.
If there's no other comment on the capital budget or the sidewalk repair efforts, we can turn to the main agenda item for tonight, which is the Walkable New London Initiative. And for those of you who aren't thoroughly familiar with it, it's basically a draft plan that the committee has developed to promote walking and recreational activity in downtown New London by developing some specific suggested walking routes and promoting those to both residents and visitors, with the caveat that we're not going to be making substantial infrastructure changes, but we're going to have some pedestrian accommodations and signage for the routes. The routes we've talked about are a route that would be a community walk, really just sort of a recreational walk. Another route that would connect all the trailheads for the Conservation Commission that are contiguous to downtown, the trailhead walk maybe. And then the third one was a history walk that would highlight some of the historical markers and historical resources or assets that we have. But the walking routes would be originating from a pocket park, a proposed pocket park that would be behind the chamber information booth. That the pocket park would be kind of the hub, and the trails would be kind of spokes, if that makes sense to you. I wanted to first thank Dawn, Woody, and Ed for volunteering to be kind of part of a working group with me to further develop this pocket park concept. I have accessed the assessor's office map of the parcel, which is designated as 325 Main Street. It's municipal property. We'll be taking several steps in the next few weeks to finalize this, or to further develop this concept. At our previous meeting, I presented some very rudimentary route maps using Google Maps. They obviously need to be refined, and we hope to have routes that would be posted on the town website, that could be accessed through QR codes on the signs for the trails. And the QR code signage would also be at the pocket park. We talked about ways to engage and involve people in the walking activities, having, whatever, prizes or badges for people, maybe some fun kid activities. So I am going to be scheduling a meeting with Adam and Sam and Ashley to sort of further talk about this concept. It's not been easy to schedule since we're all extremely busy, but I'm quite confident that'll happen in the next 2 weeks because I do want to get their input at a fairly early stage of the process in terms of what are the maintenance considerations for both the routes and the pocket park, what is the approval process that we would need to go through to actually move ahead with the installation. Don Eberly and myself met with some representatives from Bonin Architects and Associates, Kevin Ten Brink, who's the principal, and Steve D'Angelo, the director of business development. They're a firm that does all kinds of residential landscape architecture. And Don, I don't know if you would mind sharing some of the substance of that discussion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Russ and I had the chance to spend probably about 45 minutes with the two principals of Bonin, and they expressed interest in being involved. Russ, as usual, had things pretty well planned out and explaining what his vision was, and they thought that they would be able to contribute. Again, I think Russ did a great job in explaining our position that this is preliminary, that we're not funded, we're an advisory committee, but do have this vision, and accepting that, they were willing to work with us on a pro bono basis so far. I think most of you have probably received Russ's comments, both acknowledging that with a caveat that maybe we should draw up a memorandum understanding what the principle might be, and I think that, Russ, would be a point of discussion whether we really need that at this stage. But again, they're willing to sit down with us, spend some time, and come up with a plan. Whether they get into the actual assistance with construction is yet to be determined.
Yeah, and we are planning a follow-up meeting with Bonin Architects and Associates in the next 2 weeks. But basically, they have committed to helping us develop a schematic drawing of the pocket park. And that would be really for community discussion purposes. It would be, it would obviously be enhanced and refined through a community review process in terms of the exact parameters of the park and the components within the park, and what are the real community uses for the park. So that's one of the things I'd like to talk a little bit more about tonight is what is the best way to engage our community in getting feedback and discussion about this proposed park. What are the possible vehicles that we could use to gather community feedback, and sort of what kind of time frame would we be talking about? We've touched on some of these questions at previous meetings, using surveys, but I think that I would envision that in the first part of 2026, we would have substantial information in terms of getting community feedback. So,
Can I just add one bit there? I just want to give you an example of a time when we actually used Bonin to help us with a project, and that was when the cupola was coming down off the building. And Ashley actually spearheaded that group, and we met with Bonin's, and they drew the plan for that park at no charge. And then we got business owners and other people to help us with donations to do that. And Terry Wilcox at the time did all the landscaping and donated all of that. So there's precedent with projects like that and with using Bonin. So you're probably, I don't know if the people that you're dealing with at Bonin's have been there a long time, because we were dealing directly with, not Jeremy, his wife. Why can't I think of her first name? Anyway, and so just remind them of that. They've already been involved in the town project, and we're very grateful for that, so.
Really helpful history.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bibi, that's really helpful history.
Yep.
And I will mention that to them. But let's open up to some discussion about community engagement and involvement in sort of developing the Project Park concept.
Yeah, is there another event that we might be able to piggyback off of? You know, try to get a conversation going. That seems to be maybe more successful.
Yeah. You were saying an already scheduled, organized community event that we could present a schematic and like question answer kind of thing. Obviously, it's getting a little chilly for outdoor activities, but I know some groups have used the town meetings as public education or outreach mechanism, but folks kind of file in quickly and file out quickly, so that's not ideal to engage people in a conversation. But any other ideas?
Along the idea of piggybacking on an activity that's event, we can think of some school activities where families are involved. I think open house has already passed, but there are concerts, there are different things that are scheduled that we might be able to have an audience that would be responsive to the family aspect of the bike trails and as well, I was thinking, I wonder if Council on Aging could be involved with hosting some sort of an activity evening where, you know, people that might be able to do the recreational walking or be interested in the historical walk could also get together and get some information. So just two different parts of the spectrum of people that I would anticipate using, you know, our trails.
I had a great
Ashley?
meeting with the athletic director up at Colby Sawyer last week, and we are planning on doing some community nights at some of the basketball games over the winter, and have them be more family-focused. Also, a night where COA and Woodcrest might come, and we might be, Putnam might be able to get the van out and go pick those folks up that would like to attend. But that might also be another avenue. They are very keen on really becoming more community-focused, and the athletic director is fantastic, and she has a lot of ideas where we can set up tables before the game for the community, so that could also be an avenue.
Great, yeah, I am planning to meet with the new president and talk about the purpose of our committee and how we might be able to collaborate with the college, but I appreciate those, bringing those opportunities to our attention. Other thoughts or ideas? Ed, not to put you on the spot.
When do you envision the schematic might be available?
We haven't come up, I shared with them a proposed timeline. Our original thinking was that we would have a schematic for the October 28th planning board meeting. We know that is not going to happen. And we were going to have some preliminary discussion with the Board of Selectmen at one of their December meetings. I think we will have some conversations with both of those entities, but it will not involve reviewing a detailed schematic of the park, which doesn't answer your question. But we will be meeting with Bonin Architects again, and I think at that meeting, we will be able to get a date for them in terms of what they would project. I did share with them, and we did have some discussion about a proposed timeline for the project. And a previous draft of that timeline was shared with this committee, but I had updated it because it was overly optimistic. And I can share that timeline with you. But I believe, Dawn, and this is from memory, but I think we were saying that, basically it was going to take 2 years to actually bring the project to completion.
I'm thinking if we had some preliminary drawings or ideas, we could float them at the events we just talked about. It seems like a long way away, but I'm sure Putnam's already planning the next Strawberry Festival. If we had something more developed,
Yeah.
we could promote, we have this we want to share with everybody in the community
Yeah.
at that time.
Right, yeah. Well, I'll underscore that when I meet with them, that, this would be a critical piece of our community outreach. I think that's fair to say. I think one of the things that we want to be really careful about is not to present to the public that this is some kind of finished or completed rendering of the park, and that it's a vehicle for engagement and discussion, because I do think that the design will evolve even before the first installation, but the design may also evolve after the installation in terms of what we learn about how the park is being used. So, Erica, did you want to add any? No, okay. Okay. Well, one of the other key steps that I envision are to meet with the immediate neighbors of the park, which is Woodcrest and obviously the library, the new school that's being developed in the neighborhood, and the businesses that are immediately surrounding the space, to at least begin the discussion of, the neighborhood might be evolving, might be changing, and I would like to schedule that meeting really before we have a very long, like a highly visible public campaign, because a neighbor may say, I didn't even know this was happening. I think that's something we should plan in the next 2 or 3 months, is a very informal discussion with those key stakeholders that are immediately surrounding the area, and get their feedback. The space, it's an interesting space because although it's wide open, there is a private home that I believe might be apartments, I'm not sure about that, but and there's the Barn Playhouse. Yeah. And then there's, obviously, Woodcrest has a patio in the rear. I mean, if you go over to the space, you'll see that we have to figure out ways to interact with those neighbors in a way that is palatable to them. And then, obviously, there's the chamber information booth. And the chamber is very supportive of this. The director of the chamber has already spoken to her board. And once we have a more detailed proposal, we will engage the chamber and the chamber members. But one thing that would be helpful, since all of you are well connected to the community, is to sort of get a list of civic groups or clubs that we should engage in conversations. I mean, like the Rotary Club, the Outing Club, obviously, that we should engage in some informal conversations about this concept. I mean, obviously the hospital, the college are obvious ones, but, Don mentioned this informal group that gets together for lunch of retired physicians, and they obviously are people who have a lot of respect and influence in town. And I think there are all those kind of informal groups in town that we should be connecting with, not just like the large organizations and agencies. So, Emily, you might have some ideas on that. BB probably has some ideas on that, and Ashley. Just if a significant proposal is being considered by the town, who are sort of the key constituents and stakeholders. And some of those people are not necessarily the president or director of an organization, but they're people who are long-standing citizens that have a great deal of respect and influence, kind of thing. We'd want to have those kinds of discussions. So we can talk one-on-one on that, about that. In terms of the organizational form that this project would take, I think that's up for review and further discussion. At this juncture, we sort of have this informal working group that I mentioned before with Dawn and Woody and Ed, in terms of we're collecting information and we're meeting with the architects in an exploratory fashion. But I think one of the things the committee has to decide is what are the key decisions that have to be made to move the project forward, and what are sort of the check-in points with the committee. I mean, from my perspective, it's like collect information from experts from the community, and then review that information and make decisions. That has to happen at this committee level. It has to happen at the planning board level. It has to happen at the board of selectmen level. I mean, in terms of the project going forward. I don't know what all those individual steps are, since I've never sort of been the lead on a project of this type in a town setting, but I think that it would be helpful, and maybe for our next meeting, like a decision tree for the project. You know, at what point do we need to make a decision about fundraising? At what point do we need to make a decision about a public community forum to get more input? At what point do we, as Erica has mentioned in previous meetings, approach businesses for volunteer labor or for supplies, or organizations to provide volunteers? Grant has some resources in that regard, of able-bodied men and women I can attest to. I guess what I'm saying is that we should move forward, but we need to build support. We need to build support in terms of the formal town committees, but we need to also build support from the community. So, you know, I don't know exactly what that looks like at this point, but it's just something I've been thinking about. I will share with the committee the proposed project timeline that that has been revised, and I'd like to get feedback from you on that. I'll share the capital budget, which was approved by the planning board with the committee. So I'll probably attach those to the minutes, Erica, as additional items. Any other discussion on the Walkable New London initiative? One of the things I might be approaching individuals about is walking with me around some proposed routes. I know that Judy, Emily, Bob Bowers are people who walk downtown frequently and have a granular understanding of, like, the joys and the challenges of walking downtown. So I think that would help us kind of on the ground make a further delineate the routes further, and we have other resources that are available to us. So Mark Vernon from the Conservation Commission has agreed to sort of provide input and feedback to us on, you know, connecting the trailheads and all that. And we have other people who we can turn to. Go right ahead.
I think Grant would.
I was just going to say something. I think it'd be important too to get an understanding of who we think our customer base would be for this project, because then we can kind of tailor, you know, the type of businesses or the the network of people that we approach for support, because if it's of most interest to them, they'd probably be more willing to help contribute. Maybe do some research on that.
Right, yeah. Other towns and cities, like Flagstaff, Arizona, many other places, they have very well-developed walking programs in town, where they actually meet at different local cafes and things like that on different weeks and things like that. And it does provide some economic stimulus to the town, being sort of a walking destination. But yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying, which is both for the pocket park and the routes, who would be the main users, and how should we tailor our planning based on who are the main users? So yeah, I mean, if we have a 5-mile walk, it's going to be different than a half-mile walk in terms of who the constituents are. If we have, if we're developing a trail, which is for families specifically, for families to do together, there's different kinds of considerations for that, obviously, than a trail for seniors, primarily for seniors. So, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, any other comments or suggestions on the Walkable New London initiative? Right. Okay. Thanks for all of your participation and feedback in terms of being available for discussions and for helping to move the project forward. So I think at this juncture, Grant, maybe you can give us an update on the Kearsarge Trails Coalition, which is an evolving organization, and you can talk a little bit about NIMBA and your chapter membership and your communications with the town relative to the Lion Brook Trail.
Sure. So we have presented to the executive committee of NEMBA, New England Mountain Bike Association, and they were ecstatic with our approach. They really support our vision and the type of achievements we want to do in town, networking the businesses and making the trails very family-friendly. One of the things they noted was there's not a lot of green trails in their network or beginner trails in their network, which is a big focus for us. So they were very, very supportive of that aspect. We presented to their executive committee, like I mentioned, and this Sunday, we actually present to their board of directors. So their executive committee has suggested that we become a chapter. We're going to be the Kearsarge area chapter. And we just need the final approval from the board. Hopefully won't have any issues with it, and we'll be approved this Sunday. So that will be huge for us, because then we have insurance, we'll have funding options, we'll have our nonprofit status, we'll be able to use them for marketing and building acknowledgement for events. So that'll be a huge plus for us. In talking to some of the organizations that want to be involved within the town, they are kind of, a lot of their decisions will be based off our approval. So they're very encouraged that we're going to get it, and as we are, and I think once we have that stamp of approval, we'll be able to move forward a lot, especially with the Conservation Commission. I've had meetings with them, with 3 representatives over there, and we're looking to improve the Lion Brook Trail. And we've kind of outlined a section of it that will be our preliminary or our model trail, which will kind of loop into the outing club, and then hopefully over towards the hospital. The hospital's already committed to land and or funds to do improvements in that section that was logged off a few years back, but no construction ever started. So that could be a huge bonus and a great use of that property. The trails near the Lion Brook section by the outing club, we're kind of describing them as a kind of a rail trail through the woods. Like, that's how we want to have people envision that section of trail. It's going to be a multi-use trail and improved for walking and hiking and biking, and just, all around, because it is very rooty. There's a lot of uneven terrain. The drainage is not great in some sections, so we want to do a lot of improvement there to give it better access to everyone. I also have a meeting with Jeanette McKillen coming up from the Colby Sawyer Athletic Department. They are expanding their Morris Trail, so they want to make it so that it is NCAA approved for cross-country events. So that will probably change some of the routing of it. We want to complement their trail network, and they need to finalize how the routing's going to be and how long they need to make it in order to meet all the guidelines for the NCAA. So that's in conversation with them. That's moving forward. That's where we want to be with them. We have another public meeting on Tuesday, October 28th. It's at 6 p.m. at Tracy Library. So if you're not on our mailing list yet, I hope that you get there, because there's going to be a lot of excitement about it. So yeah, we're going to unveil a lot of our updates then and really rope in a lot of the public at that point. We've outlined some committees that we want to develop, and we hope to get some participation from public people at that point to sign up and help with our committees. So.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Thanks. This actually came up at, I think, the September Citizens Advisory Committee, which meets once a month on Saturday mornings at 7:30. And there was quite a bit of intrigue, and I suspect we are going to reach out and see if you would be willing to come 1 month and give a little bit of an overview on the program. But I think there is some excitement about it and wanting to learn more. So, and I did see the email today about the meeting on the 26th. I will try to go, but I think I'll also probably circulate it to the Citizens Advisory Committee, knowing that this is of interest to them, and see if they can attend.
Yeah, we encourage that. If anybody that receives the email has a group that they think would be interested, we'd love to have the email passed on. So
Great.
The more the merrier.
Great.
Thank you, Ashley. Any comment from the committee regarding Grant's efforts for multipurpose trails? Grant and I had a brief conversation after the Walk to School, Bike to School event, and he kind of updated me. And, one of the things that obviously we want to be connected to is, whatever multi-purpose trail segments are developed, that it's sort of tied in with a network of bicycle and walking trails in town, so that we have one integrated whole, is all what I'm trying to say. That would be extremely useful to us in terms of further development of the master plan. One of the things that Sam Clark put in his introduction to the capital budget was increasing the mobility and accessibility of citizens in line with the transportation section of the master plan. So building a robust and comprehensive walking and biking trail network in town is also in line with enhancing mobility and accessibility that's called for in our master plan. So do we have any other comment regarding either Grant's presentation or other business this evening that people would like to discuss? Don?
So, Grant, I really congratulate you on your efforts. When you form a chapter, there's must be some cost associated with that. What are you doing about fundraising?
So NEMBA's a pretty unique non-profit organization. There's about 32 chapters now. There's 11,000 members. And the neat part about them is they will open our chapter up to people that would be interested in joining us. And at that point, they take about half of the membership fee. The membership fee for the year is $60. I believe that's for the family, because that's what we are. But so we would get $30, NEMA gets $30. And then that helps to bolster the funding for our chapter. The neat thing about NEMBA also is that if we do fundraising events, local fundraising events, 100% of the money that we collect goes directly to our chapter. NEMBA doesn't take any percentage. They don't have any advisory fees or anything like that. We will work with a local bank, and the donations and funding will go directly to our local bank, will stay in our town, and will go directly to our trail building efforts. So they give us the nonprofit status. They give us the insurance for our trail workers, and for the development of trails, they have experts on staff that can help guide us for trail development and routing and building and construction and all that. It's a turnkey solution, really, and they are very multi-trail use geared. Their name is New England Mountain Bike Association, but they've since kind of evolved to a very multi-use trail platform. And like I said, they're very interested in having more green level trails or entry level trails in their network. They don't have a lot of that, and they're looking to us to provide a lot of networks for people that would be interested in that, family-oriented networks.
That's really phenomenal, particularly if they're willing to provide insurance for the chapter. My goodness, sounds like a great relationship.
And Grant, you had mentioned to me that some of the work that you had done locally was actually they were kind of looking to the work that you've done in terms of your organizational development as like a model chapter. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the presentation that we gave was nothing like they've ever seen before. I think we're going about it differently than other chapters have. So I think most chapters kind of get guys that want to build mountain bike trails, and they get a small network going, and then they decide, oh, well, we want to be a part of NEMBA, very loosely organized groups. We're a lot different. We're coming at this with a lot of organization, with people that have incredible skill sets in nonprofit. We have an on-staff lawyer that works in the nonprofit status. So he is trying to improve the relationship between the chapters and what we call the mothership. So we're outlining some of the financial relationships if we ever decided we wanted to separate from NEMBA, if NEMBA had drastic changes that we weren't in favor of, if we wanted to break away, who is entitled to the funding that we've raised, how do we make sure it stays in-house. They've had issues in the past where chapters did get so big that they decided they didn't need the mothership anymore, NEMBA anymore, and there's some question about who was entitled to the funding, because the funding was collected under the NEMBA umbrella, but by the local club, and it was supposed to go to the local chapter. So there were some disagreements about who is entitled to that funding. We want to clarify all that, and there's a lot of interest by Nicole Friedman, who's the executive director of NEMBA, that our verbiage gets dispersed amongst the 32 chapters, and they fall under our agreement as well, the same type of agreement that we're outlining with them now. So
I'm just changing the discussion slightly, the focus of the discussion. So on the Lion Brook Trail, just to go back to that, do you have any projection of when you would hope that this model trail segment would actually be installed?
I had a meeting with the three representatives from the Conservation Commission, and they presented their thoughts of it at the last meeting, which was just a couple days ago. They wanted some feedback from the group, but the three of them want to greenlight the project. They want an update from us as soon as we get the approval from NEMBA. But as soon as we have that, we're gonna launch our fundraising drives as well, and hopefully soon after that we can start, weather permitting, we can start making improvements.
Right. At this juncture, you don't have cost estimates for the segment, is that Is that a correct statement?
We do not have cost estimates. A lot of it is going to be, is already donated materials and equipment and labor. So I don't expect the initial cost to be much.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Yep. Any other questions for Grant or for other committee members? Okay, well, we've been efficient in our meeting this evening, and many of you have just come from previous meetings, so I want to be sensitive to people's time. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 18th at 5 p.m. Please make a notation of that, and let me know if that's any kind of a complication for you in terms of your holiday plans. And if there is no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? Well, thank you for your time this evening.